everyone, and welcome to another episode of Lost Female Education. I recently had a harrowing epiphany that I want to share with you all. By the way, if you want to hear my husband's take on all of this, he's joining me in the Patreon version of this video, which you can visit through the link in the description box. If I'm messing up my words, it's because I just recorded this video twice, and one of those times was not actually recorded, so I'm doing this again for the third time, but I'm pretty sure I'll be fine, but that really sucked. So growing up, I was absolutely inundated with talking points about how Black people are the victims, how we need the white people's help. We need a booster seat to do as well as the white people because we're powerless otherwise. Oh, Black people can't be racist. We have no power. We need reparations. We need affirmative action. Oh, pity, pity the poor Black people. I grew up in one of the whitest and liberal areas in the USA, and I was usually the darkest person in my class, if not the entire school. And whenever we talked about slavery in the US, I'd get concerned and pitiful glances, even though the African part of my family was never enslaved by white people. Almost all discussions about Black people within my school and continuing into college was about how victimized and powerless we are. I remember my first quarter in college, I was 18 or 19. I took a class on Black politics at the time, and I was still very much brainwashed by the prevailing narrative about Black people. I still believed in white privilege, and I remember saying this really cringe thing about white privilege. And in that class, which was taught by a dark-skinned Black professor who wore an Obama jersey on the first day of school, he just reinforced everything. The first thing he showed us on that first day of school, my first day in university, he showed us Childish Gambino's "This Is America" music video, which, if you don't know, is essentially about how horrible it is to be Black in America. It makes some other points too, but that's mostly what it's about how you're likely going to die if you're Black in America. And then the following week, we watched the documentary 13, which is yet another way to show us how much it sucks to be Black in America. Then we watched 12 Years a Slave a bit later, then the movie Fences, all showing us over and over again how much it has sucked and still sucks to be Black in America. My professor even said that we have made zero racial progress in this nation while unironically wearing a jersey sporting our Black president's name. I think in my second year, I was thankfully exposed to Dennis Prager, who was, I think, the first person in my entire life to say to me, over a YouTube video of course, that Black people are not powerless, that we can shape our own lives without the help of the white man. But unfortunately, I was maybe 20 years old at the time, and the damage had already been done, and the bleeding heart white liberal narrative was very much ingrained into me. I still thought of myself and all Black people as powerless victims, especially subconsciously. Luckily, my African mother was very hardworking when I was growing up, and so was my white father, so I had a very positive Black female role model, and I had a very positive white male role model, but unfortunately no positive Black male role model close to me to demonstrate in front of me, like my mom did, that the bleeding heart white liberal talking points about Black people, Black men in particular, were just not apt. There was a time when I was a teenager, I was asked out by two objectively attractive Black male models, and I knew that they were beautiful. I knew that they were objectively very attractive, and I knew that they were competent due to their modeling careers, but in the back of my head, I still heard those horrible bleeding heart white liberal talking points that I grew up hearing from almost everyone. The liberal news like CNN, KOUW, NPR, Rachel Maddow, victims, we're just victims, we need help, pity us. Those talking points usurped any attraction I had towards those men, replacing that attraction with misplaced pity. And there's nothing less sexually attractive to a woman than a victimized, powerless man. And this, I know, is a very uncomfortable and sensitive discussion, but I think it needs more attention brought to it. Women are hypergamous, meaning that we mate across and up dominance hierarchies. We're sexually attracted to men that are dominant over other men who are successful, powerful, and competent, and at least seemingly competent. So if a group of men is painted as powerless victims, even if it's not true, they're not going to be perceived as very attractive mates. So growing up, as I was in the dating scene, learning what I found attractive in men, I noticed that I never gravitated towards darker skinned black men. Not because I didn't find them objectively attractive, because that doesn't make any sense, and not because I thought they were inherently inferior, because I myself am part black and a lot of my family is black. My mom's a dark-skinned black woman and I respect and admire her more than almost anyone. And just yesterday, I realized it's because of the internalized, ingrained pity I have for black people, black men in particular, because growing up, the only image of black men I had was how they were portrayed in the media. Powerless, poor, and victimized, which is the opposite kind of man women want. Women, again, generally want powerful, competent victors. Of course, a woman's subconscious psychology and sex drive is not all that determines who she's going to mate with. She also has her humanity, her intellect, her critical thinking skills. So she knows that only going after the richest men, the most powerful elite men, is silly, and that nuance is very important to note. However, she still likely does not want the most powerless of men. Of course, a significant reason why I personally was mostly attracted to white men before I got married is because my dad is white and I had a very positive relationship with him growing up, and women tend to be attracted to men who are like their fathers if they had a positive childhood with them. But that alone still did not explain why I was in particular not attracted to objectively beautiful, competent, successful black men, because I found myself at one time or another attracted to men of practically every other race. And now I finally know why. You're not inherently unattracted to black people when you're part black yourself. This is a learned bias. I internalized the bleeding heart white liberal talking points about black people being victimized and powerless, who could only succeed with the help of white men, like Django when he could only rescue his wife with the help of King Schultz, played by Christoph Waltz. You know, in every movie set in slave periods, with a few notable exceptions, the most victimized men are always dark-skinned black men. Sure, there may be some historical basis of colorism being portrayed, but there is hardly ever an example of on-screen violent victimization of even light-skinned men. This applies across settings and even in other historical fiction like Bridgerton. Even still, black men in general are portrayed as somehow universally inferior and needing white savior intervention in order to be competitive, except for in sports. This of course funnels black masculinity into state-sponsored circus mentalities. In Bridgerton, for instance, the only reason there are people from colonial populations represented in the highest tiers of Anglo-British society is because the mad King George somehow adopted the white savior affirmative action 21st century liberal mindset centuries in advance and sponsored the movement of elite families from the colonies to England proper as a great experiment, or the experiment. Even still though, the main portrayal of a dark-skinned black man is a boxer who can only get the happy ending for his family by playing the role of a good circus goof and throwing a championship for money. I think it was Malcolm X who first warned about the proverbial white liberal.
The white liberal differs from the white conservative only in one way. The liberal is more deceitful, more hypocritical than the conservative. Both want power, but the white liberal is the one who has perfected the art of posing as the Negro's friend and benefactor. And by winning the friendship and support of the Negro, the white liberal is able to use the Negro as a pawn or a weapon in this political football game that is constantly raging between the white liberals and the white conservatives.
I'm not at all saying that all white liberals are bad people, not at all. Jordan Peterson considers himself a classical liberal and I'm a pretty big admirer of his content, but the narrative that white liberal people often spread about black people is incredibly detrimental. It's honestly arguably worse than the kind of racism that the KKK spreads because it's far more effective at disempowering black people. If you make the black person think of themselves as powerless, that's going to have much worse long-term consequences. It's much more effective at making black people loathe themselves than some KKK wizard saying that we're monkeys, for instance. I'm not one bit saying that that kind of racism is not harmful, but at least it's honest with its intentions. It's in your face, it's explicit. The duplicitous faux befriendment of the liberal talking points is much more offensive to me personally, and it unfortunately resulted in me having this unconscious bias towards black men. I probably would have married a white man anyways, even if I didn't have this unconscious bias, because most men in my area are white, and my father is white, and my husband is just wonderful. But it does make me sad that I had, and in many ways still do have, this horrible mindset. I do take accountability for it in all ways that I can, but at the same time, I was conditioned to think this way with these talking points as early as I can remember. And I think forming this mindset was inevitable because of it. And this is a very interesting lesson in hypergamy. Women, by and large, are going to be unattracted to the seemingly victimized, powerless group of men and attracted to the seemingly victimizer, powerful group of men. Competency, at least perceived competency, is one of the most attractive traits for a man to have. Of course, this is all just my personal experience. I'm not at all saying that all or most women view black men this way. Hopefully they really don't, but it's good to be aware of these preconceived notions you may have about certain groups of people because of culture. Also, in reality, your success is based on your character, and your character is what women should base their attraction on. In reality, in this nation, your long-term success will be based on your character and merit. That's why, even though black people are often portrayed as these poor victims, Nigerian immigrants, for instance, out-earn your average white American family. So I'm willing to put myself on the chopping block here to spread some awareness of this unfortunate reality. Now that I know I have this learned perspective, I'm going to pray ardently about it and try to shake this internalized pity I have towards anyone and everyone, but in particular, darker skinned black men. Colorism and racism is a thing, but it's not the kind that you're taught to be wary of growing up. Rather, it's the benevolent racism that you actually should be wary of. It's the white person who knocks on your door and says, "Hi, I'm from the government and I'm here to help." Thank God for people like Dennis Prager, Thomas Sowell, Kenneth Owens, Ben Shapiro for waking me up from this delusion. And that is all for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you found some value in it. Please like the video if you did enjoy it. Please also subscribe for more videos like this and comment any thoughts you may have in the description box. And if you want to see my husband's take on all of this, please sign up to be a patron through the link in the description box. Hope to see you in the next video and have a good rest of your day.